Kazakhstan, this is an exciting time to be here for various reasons. First of all, Kazakhstan is celebrating its 20th anniversary today, this year, not today. And for DBK, it's also a very exciting time, both for its leadership and its staff, because it's celebrating its 10th anniversary. So congratulations to the people of DBK and wonderful achievements you have accomplished so far. Human capital development, in my view, is a key pillar to develop the socio-economic fabric of a young nation. And I still consider Kazakhstan as a relatively young nation. 20 years of independence is not that long. I spent the early parts of my career in Singapore, 5 years from 84 till 89. And one thing that I noticed in Singapore is that human talent development has always been at the forefront and was a key enabler for economic development. And it continues to be the case for Singapore. And that's just one example, but it was one that I was experiencing firsthand. In this session, we're going to explore 3 themes. The first theme is we want to understand a little bit what the key priority sectors are of the Kazakh economy. Because in the end, human talent development needs to be in line with what the sectors of the future need to be. That's the first area. Secondly, we're going to look at what is Kazakhstan doing in order to ensure that its human capital development is there based on the skill levels, but also in terms of the quantity that it's needed. And then finally, what can we learn from emerging markets? There are other emerging markets that have gone through similar experience in Kazakhstan, and are there some lessons learned that we can actually potentially implement and learn from? We have really a distinguished panel of experts. Let me start on my left. We have Mr. Borjan Baybek. He's the Deputy Director of the Present Administration of the Republic of Kazakhstan, and he is also the President of the Bolashak Association. Then next to Mr. Baybek, we have Ms. Madina Albikasimova. I hope I give justice to her name. She is the Vice Minister of Economic Development and Trade of the Republic of Kazakhstan. Then next to her, we have Dr. Lourdes Casanova. She's lecturer in strategy at INSEAD. And Lourdes has recently published a book on global Latinas. She will talk a little bit about that as well later on. And then we have on the far left from my side, Mr. Maksat Kabeshev. He's the chairman of Allianz Bank and JSC. Well, if we look at human talent, we also need to look at diversity. And you may have noticed that we have true diversity on our panel. We have 2 women on our panel. And secondly, we also have 3 nationalities on our panel. So let me start with Team 1. And Team 1 is about the key priority sectors of the economy. And I'm going to first ask our members of government, Mr. Baybek and Ms. Abil Kasimova, what are the key priority sectors of the economy? And how will they help the country to achieve its longer-term objective in achieving balanced development? So let me start with my left neighbor, Mr. Baybek.
Thank you very much for your very pleasant words. I want to join the words of congratulation with the 10th anniversary for the Bank of Development of Kazakhstan. This is a period where we have done certain maybe a road, and we can make plans for the future. And I want to congratulate you with the upgrading of your rating. It's a big achievement for Kazakhstan. And of course, competitiveness of the country and attraction of investments depends from the quality of human capital. This is a key factor not only for the state development, for the economy of the country, of course, and I want to develop further this topic. You know that the head of the country all these 20 years pursued the policy to increase the competitiveness of the Republic of Kazakhstan. During various periods in Kazakhstan, new people would come to the government, the state sector. The first stage of development and its dynamic was preconditioned by the fact that so many young people came from the science, from research, and it was very important that in this period there would be people who didn't have old mentality. And then there was a new stage for development to attract new personnel to business. Business is the second sphere, which ensures the sustainable development of the economy. Now we have the program, educational program Bolshak, which already celebrated 70 years of its anniversary. Thousands of young people were able to be educated abroad. In order for the efficiency of the country and to set up and to fulfill the tasks which were set up by the head of the country, we should follow three things. The government must have a clear-cut picture for development. Second, quality of human resources and human capital, and availability of the appropriate financial instruments. But human capital is a key factor for the country economy development, as it has already been mentioned. That's why Mr. Dutta already mentioned, and I liked his presentation very much about the efficiency of the state. I looked and I saw a big ball which shows the efficiency of Canada. We have been talking about Singapore, Finland, Sweden, but they, in comparison with Kazakhstan, are not big countries. And then, it's much easier for them to ensure efficiency. Last month, I went to Canada. I studied the experience of Canada. I can tell you that the experience of Canada is more interesting for us. So we need to look at the key sectors of the economy. We must see at the base conditions of Kazakhstan. And I want to focus on Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is number 9 in terms of the territory. By the population density, we have 6 people per 1 kilometer, and Canada is among big neighbors like US and but we are between Russia and China, and we have a region policy, we have regional policies, and in Canada and West they have oil and gas, same in Kazakhstan. Canada grows wheat, we also produce wheat. Canada is rich in resources, we also have resources, all metals. In Canada they have 2 state languages, English and French. We have the Kazakh and Russian. In Canada they have more than 160 different nations, and we do also have a lot of similarities, and which defines the future of our country. And we are learning the experience of Canada. In Canada, they have for more than 30 years the system of assessment of the efficiency of the state. And last year, we summed up our results, and now we are analyzing the processes in the work of the state bodies. So we have made the 5-year plan, and we shall pass over from the assessment of the efficiency of the state bodies to performance of such state bodies, and to the results which will have an impact on the efficiency of the country as a competitive country. And Kazakhstan is in the second decade of its development, and it's defined by the strategy 2030. And the head of the country said today that we must pass from quantity to quality. The first years it was very important to build roads, to build up the economy of the country, but to speed up the whole process and to collect all the people around it and to make them all enthusiastic. We have done it, and now it's time to pass over to the quality. And what is done by the government? 2 years ago, the resolution on control was made. Control increases efficiency and increases the activity of civil society. We want to increase and to improve our mentality and to have something like a German mentality. And I like what our president says. Why? Why the transfer of the capital to its historical place? It took 10 years. And the Germans, when the decision was made, they already started to pack their suitcases. But our mentality So whatever the tasks are set up, it takes our time. And that's why we need to ensure the effective work for all state body. And the resolution on control increases the prevention aspects. And the second key aspect is the analysis of the well-balanced development of the regions based on the performance results. 2 years ago, we started to introduce the rating for development and the level of development of regions in terms of the industrial development. And through rating and assessment, we increase competitiveness between the regions, including attraction of investments. In order to attract investments, there should be certain key parameters to be achieved, and it all increases the efficiency of the local authorities' activities and their work. And the next is the introduced system of assessment, and we check what is the correlation between the price and the services. And we want to have a client-oriented country. We look at the services provided by the state bodies, to the population, and between government and business. And nowadays, we need to increase the efficiency of the civil servants to ensure all the conditions to attract investments and to increase the quality of the human capital. And the head of the country pays much attention to forming of the human capital in the country. The ideology was to learn about the best practices of other countries, and 7,500 people are studying abroad. 55% of them are working already in the private sector, 10% in the state bodies, and others in the national companies. Also, everything is oriented to increase the efficiency, and we have KMEP educational facility, Kazakh American University, Kazakh British University, and then we have created the Nazarbayev University and the Nazarbayev Schools, Nazarbayev Fund, and actually we are pursuing the policy to generate ideas in the country. And 2 years ago, much focus was made on the development of the kindergartens. We want to form and identify the most talented young people starting from the kindergarten. We want, under conditions when we don't have much population, through transparency, to create all conditions to increase and improve the quality of human capital. If we have 3 programs, and actually there are 4. The first is a program on education for 10 years, on health and innovative development. The major task is so that the human capital should be healthy. Without health, you cannot achieve anything. To have educated people. Educated is oriented on the best experiences. And if a person has good education but cannot find a job where he can get and gain experience, then what's the use of this education? That's why we need, and we have started the program of innovative development of the country. If 10 years ago the graduates of Bolshak program were not able to find jobs where they could apply their knowledge, nowadays it's much easier. It means that the economy is developing, and now we have all conditions to use your knowledge, and we have the culture in place, and the whole government will work so that every day, every civil servant and every state board must be oriented to get the performance results. You can do much and get no performance, but you can do less maybe but get more performance. So that's why the human capital must be developed so that we should improve the quality. This is the task.
Thank you for your comments. The comparison with Canada is obviously very warranted for a number of reasons. Other countries that may be interesting to look at, and I know that later on Dr. Casanova will look at that, is actually countries like Brazil, but also Norway. Let me now turn to, and I really need to make sure I have this right, Ms. Abil Kasimova, yes. The key priority sectors of the industry, because the reason why we want to look at the key priority sectors, and it was mentioned by Mr. Buyback that the initial focus was really on infrastructure, and a lot has been achieved there. But the future will be more than just infrastructure. And the talent that is going to be required in the future may be, as a result, be quite different. So what are these key priority sectors?
Thank you, Mr. Van der Putte. You just can call me Medina. You don't need to call me by my
Называйте
last
меня
name.
Мадина, не надо называть меня другими именами. Thank you very much. I congratulate the Bank for Development, which is really the local for our country, and it's a front line for diversification of our economy. I want to give a general strategic framework under which the country is developing. We all know that we are developing based on the long-term strategy defined by Kazakhstan, defined by the President of Kazakhstan, Nazarbayev, Nursultan Abishevich, 2030, and now we're implementing the second phase, strategic plan for development of Kazakhstan 2020, and under the framework of this program, we foresee a lot of areas for development to support the diversification of our economy. Our policy for the midterm is aimed to ensure the 100% of the economic growth. Our country and the government was the major driver for this decade, and we want to base our development of the regulation, business environment, infrastructure, which we need for the economic development, quality of human capital, stable macroeconomic environment. Moreover, the government uses such active instruments as the state program for industrial innovative development, mechanism of support to business development. And if we're talking about the priority sectors of the economy, of course, we shall continue further development and increase of efficiency, competitiveness of our base sectors of the economy, oil and gas, nuclear, chemical, mining, machine building, construction, pharmaceuticals, and we try to develop non-raw sectors of the economy, light industry, tourism. Moreover, our strategy is aimed to create basis to form the sectors of the economy for the future. Information technologies, communications, alternative sources of energy, space technologies. What are we doing for it? We all understand that creation of the and transfer of the industrial economy to post-industrial require investments in the human capital, change in the approaches in preparation of the human resources for the economy. And this understanding is shared by the government, and under the framework of our strategy, we have developed the strategy of education, and we are passing to the policy of continuous education nowadays. So this policy is applied by many other countries, and continuous education, starting from early age, and opportunities to get educated, to improve your knowledge in the fields, in society. When we talk about the economy of the future, is that we want now to create the basis for the economy based on knowledge. Our policy at present is aimed to increase the quality of our vocational education, and much is being done for it. We create in Kazakhstan colleges of the world-class level, where people will learn the advanced experience in the vocational education, and much will be introduced in Kazakhstan. The whole system of vocational education will be changed. As for higher education, in higher education and the secondary education, we are planning to transfer from the methods of education that we used in the past. We prepared specialists in the past for the economy of the old orientation, and the methods which were used then and there were inherited. It's an old legacy, but we want now to focus on the competency development approach. And as soon as in the world we are trying to find new models for education, and we see that the world is changing around us, and the structure of the economy is changing very fastly, the demands of the economy are changing, and in order to be ready to new external conditions, we think that it's necessary to change the system of education and the content of education, and it must be based on the creativity development, skills development of young people in the educational facilities. And there is one more area, as I have said, it's continuous education. We need to create all conditions so that the companies in the private sector would be interested in the continuous improvement of qualification of their human resources. For it, we have foreseen the instruments like co-funding with the government for the programs of training and improvement of qualification of the human resources in the real sector of the economy, and the state on a constant basis does the work to increase qualification of the civil servants. And moreover, I want to highlight specifically the program of employment in the Republic of Kazakhstan. Under the framework of this program, it's foreseen that there should be various types of support to make the able-bodied population of Kazakhstan to be actively involved, and we want to increase the productivity in all segments of the economy, and we purposefully create the programs of preparation for the self-employed population, poor population, unemployed, and huge funds are foreseen for this very program. And I think that it will have a huge effect, and we can increase the productivity in our economy. When you talk about the system of education, I want to highlight one figure. Within the last 10, our costs for education increased 10 times within these 10 years, and now we are talking about the budget for education, and the cost for education make around 900 billion tenge, which makes 4.2% to GDP. And therefore, I think that while answering to your question, that we have a good understanding that we need to reconsider the content of education, approaches to education, to be ready to the demands, to meet the demands of the real sector of the economy, to HR and to the skilled people.
Many things have been said already on Bolashak program, but also, which actually, for those who don't know, is actually an education exchange program, or not necessarily exchange, but basically for Kazakhs to study abroad, and afterwards they have to come back. And also about existing institutions in Kazakhstan, including KIMEP and Nazarbayev University. And actually, if I look at the panel here, we have 4 people that have benefited from a program similar to Bolashak. The 2 people next to me, both are Bolashak scholars. Lourdes Casanova, she actually is a Fulbright scholar, and myself, I studied in the States with the Belgian American Educational Foundation scholarship. Now, what do all these scholarships have in similarities? And maybe our last panelist also is a Bolashak scholar, but sorry if I missed that one. But it's based on a meritocracy, that's number one. And secondly, the people have to come back to the home country with the objective in order to build the country, its industries and capabilities. But eventually, countries also have to focus on establishing their own institutions. We look at Luxembourg, for example. Luxembourg is an interesting case It's not comparable to Kazakhstan in terms of its economy, but Luxembourg only implemented its own university 8 years ago. Because it sent always people abroad, but then they didn't see people coming back necessarily. They saw opportunity somewhere else. So I would like now to turn to the aspect of own education institutions, but the Bolashak program obviously still exists and is not going to become obsolete anytime soon. It will continue to exist. You mentioned 17 years already is it in place. But if we look at KIMEP and Nazarbayev University, Mr. Kabeshev, how actually should higher education help support the key priority sectors of the economy, which but obviously are going to be different in the future than what we've seen in terms of skill base that was needed in the past?
Thank you very much for your question. Everybody must understand that the human resources are the resources like natural resources. We need to understand that in the global economy, all the resources nowadays belong to the global community, including the human resources. But human resources, in difference to the natural resources, have the potential to be improved and to be quantified if you manage well, if you monitor them well, train them, and manage them as it's done in the developed countries. And when we say that we need to create the local educational basis so that the local skills will be developed, it's very important for the long-term prospects. As for the short-term prospects, especially for developing markets, we understand that human resources are mobile. Nowadays, the best people try to work where it's interesting for them to work, where they can earn money. And when we see that to Kazakhstan, many people come from all over the world to earn money and to show themselves, it means that they are interested. But how to attract them to the priority sectors of the economy? I understand we have already heard that there are priority areas and priority sectors, and there are so many plans related to the future of the economic development of Kazakhstan, and there would be new sectors of economy. In order to prepare people and skilled people for these new sectors to be developed, we need to make a lot of efforts. In Kazakhstan, you are opening borders. This is the conditions for migration of the labor resources. And this is being done by the Bank of Development, which has a lot of projects and to develop different types of managers and skilled people. So much is being done in this country, but there are neighbors who have also human resources which can be attracted. And that is why the role of local educational institutions is also high, as of those ones which provide to us labor forces. As for the institutes of Kazakhstan, like KIMEP, Nazarbayev University, this is the achievements. And but you know that to make a good specialist, at least 10, 12 years will be needed. And our today's universities, they look into the prospects when in the year 2020, 2030, new projects will be implemented, and we need to prepare specialists. But the potential that we have, like graduates of Balashak program, you must create conditions for them so that it would be interesting for them to stay here in Kazakhstan, to work for Kazakhstan.
We haven't heard from one person yet. Last but not least, Lourdes. We heard a lot about higher education, and higher education obviously is very important. But if you look at the lion's share of the people in an economy, they don't necessarily have a university level education, nor should they have. Vocational training is extremely important. An example I often use is that an experienced offshore welder in the oil and gas industry can make $100,000 and upwards. Now, many people that have a university level education don't necessarily make that kind of money. What does it mean? It actually means that those are very specialized but also highly valued skills. So the importance of vocational training, and particularly also, please do give us some insights about your experience in other emerging markets, how actually vocational training has helped build the key priority sectors of other economies.
If we look at the vocational training, I think we should look first to Germany. Germany is today the world leader in exports and has one of the highest cost of labor in the world, and is competing with China, who has one of the lowest cost of labor in the world. How can Germany compete? How can German economy thrive? How can Germany keep the manufacturing base as it has done for so many years, competing with China, Vietnam, and other countries from Asia? This is possible because German workers have the highest productivity per hour in the world. And what is behind this productivity is an enormous machine of vocational training. This machine starts as early as when children are 12 years old. They are divided into different streams according to their technical skills, according to their motivation, and they start immediately at 12 years old with vocational training. And this goes on with technical engineering schools, 3-year schools that combine work experience with training, 3 months, 3 months. So if this is possible in Germany, this is possible, obviously, here in Kazakhstan. But as a young country, I think Kazakhstan can leapfrog and can do better than other countries. Educational systems are being questioned all over the world, definitely in Europe, definitely in the US, as inefficient, as having a tremendous gap between what we produce in universities and schools and what societies need. For instance, e-skills, so electronic skills that children should learn, we have started with programs giving 1 computer per child, and we don't have the software, the educational software needed for those computers. What about Kazakhstan jumping ahead and incorporating those skills and having an educational system that is more efficient and more adjusted to today's needs?
Ten minutes? Okay. Well, I'm going to ask 2 more questions, and then I want to open it up for 3 questions from the audience so that the panel can also address some of the questions from the audience. I want to talk about also the aspects of on-the-job training. On-the-job training is probably equally important, if not more important, to develop people once they have an educational background. So, and also, I want to dive a little bit deeper into, later on, when people establish businesses on their own, do they have necessarily the right skills and backgrounds, and basically what is the government doing in order to help address some of the deficiencies there? But let me first talk with Madina, and on-the-job training and a culture of coaching and feedback to develop the best talent. What do we see in both government and in businesses here in Kazakhstan? And what are potentially areas for improvement?
If we talk about the civil servants and the public administration, it has been said that Singapore is an example of highly effective state public administration. We studied this experience also And I want to inform all the participants that now a new concept of civil servants has been adopted, and the civil servants and sector will be based on the principle of democracy, and the qualification of them will be on a constant basis improved. And I want to say that the civil servants, based by different assessments, is one of the most effective sectors in the post-Soviet space, but we are not staying in one place. We are changing, we are moving, and within the last 10 years, our state civilians take part in different programs of education training, not only in Kazakhstan but abroad. And the civil servants want to get the masters, opportunities to get master's degrees under the framework of the Bolshak program. But many of them were not able to go there because they don't know the language, English language. But now we give an opportunity for them to learn the English language for 2 years practically, and then they can pick up students for the master's degree, and the government even ensured this opportunity to them. And one more thing I want to mention, due to the transfer to the new concept, the civil servants, Mr. Baybek also can say in detail about it, because he also took direct participation in it. We are introducing such an institute, which is called the Institute of Tutorship for the State Civilians. We needed to motivate of the highly qualified people so that they would be mentors to the newly hired state civilians. And under the framework of the Bolshak program, we spent so much time to prepare managers, and I also passed through this program. And now we want to focus on what schools would give, what sort of knowledge. So much has been said about the Nazarbayev University, and I think that it will be a breakthrough project for all of us, and we shall be able to achieve and to have a breakthrough in preparation of the human resources, not only for the public sector, but for business also, like managers, business managers. I think that Mr. Baybek can add something to what has been said by me. Большое спасибо.
Would you like to add something on this?
It has been said that the education is an issue nowadays for all the countries, because the economies of our countries, the environment is changing so fast, and the educational sector is lagging behind, because in 4 years of education, the knowledge which the people get, the knowledge becomes outdated, old. And I want to focus now on the system of assessment. A human being is formed when there is the appropriate atmosphere, environment, when around you people, by the example, motivate a young person. It's very important in which environment a new person will be integrated. During the first program of Bolshak, for instance, we sent around 100 people to study, but starting from the year 5, around 3,000 people were sent, and we had to use the principles of democracy and criteria to send these people. And the graduates of Bolshak, these people who were selected at school level, and in schools they showed excellent skills and knowledge, and then they passed through the language knowledge tests, and then under other conditions in the countries where they went to study, they also performed excellently. And coming back, of course, they had high anticipations, but if the practice shows, if you take the specialists who studied here in Kazakhstan, the system of education must prepare and take into account the conditions under which they will work, but the graduates of Balashak don't know the system. As those who studied here, they know the system, they know the mentality, they know the conditions, they have the contacts, but people who live abroad, of course, they are taken from this environment. They are studying in other countries, they are learning other traditions, other values, and when coming back, of course, they are sort of, strangers, and they are not competitive as specialists because they don't know the system, they cannot get adapted to the system, but in 7-10 years, the knowledge which they got gives the results anyway through practice. And we see that to bring up the personnel, it's like to plant an apple tree, because you cannot get potatoes and tomatoes every year. In 3-4 years, you will get indigenous fruits. And the head of the country, when the economy of the country was under grave situation, and where we were talking about independence, we sent the students of under Balashak program. The cost per one student was like to build one school, and the population was negative to it. But now, these people who have come, they have already got the professional knowledge, and they have theoretical knowledge, they have skills, they got adapted to the system, and they become radiant good specialists. And already in those years, we made the basis in terms of the development of human resources. Now we are in the transit period, and of course the notion of leadership, and I want to talk about it. I think that, and I got convinced in Canada, that the role of leadership and the role of internal mechanisms to increase the efficiency of the civil servants cannot be replaced by any external ones. So, anyway, it's very important that there should be internal efficiency of the civil servants. That's what we have nowadays. That's why it's very important for us to have an open dialogue. All the solutions which are taken by the state bodies, they must be taken through consensus with business. What business needs today must be done by the government, must be ensured by the government, and in this area we still have some challenges to overcome, and that's why I think that the client-oriented government and country, which is oriented on the demands of the business, is very important. I want again to say that our country is a big one, and we have regional economies, and there is the West, which is dynamically developing, Almaty, Astana, dynamically developing, and a group of regions who have the potential for industrial development, and the regions for agricultural development, and a group of southern regions we have a huge population but agricultural orientation. So you see they have various human resources potential and the other potentials, and our task is to achieve access to the people irrespective of where they live, to quality ensured education, to form the conditions to form the human capital, and we have the rotation system, experienced resources must come to the center, so that the strategic objectives which are undertaken by the government must be ensured through the cooperation with the graduates of Balashak, with the local human resources, and to take into account the development of every region, and 4.5% of the budget to education to GDP. Is quite enough. It means that the government pays so much attention to the development of human capital, and the most valuable thing in Kazakhstan is that we have a high mentality and orientation on education. We have a huge territory of Kazakhstan, and the fact that Kazakhstan is between Asia and Europe brings to the fact that the Kazakhs were open to new things, to knowledge, and would absorb new knowledge, and that's why the task of Balashak The task of Bolashaks are very important. The major task of graduates of Bolashak to ensure sustainability of what has been done by Nazarbayev, and these people who study abroad, this new generation of young people would ensure succession of the course which has been adopted by the country. But this can be done only if the public administration is effective and the human resources are effective. We understand all that, and we try to ensure all this.
We have time for 3 questions. Are there microphones as well for taking the question? If you have a question, please raise your hand. Also, quickly state your name and ask, and state the name of the person you want to ask this question to. Any questions from the audience? Is a gentleman here in the front?
Bijan Faramarz, International Herald Tribune. Industrial innovation in Kazakhstan, I've been following it. It's been moving rapidly and very successfully. However, there is one point, which is industrial innovation. If it is for a small population, in a country with a small population, that they can increase production, it's fantastic. However, when there are big countries with big population, when you have industrial innovation, basically what industrial innovation does is making the product faster and less people needed to do those products. So if they already, look at US, already they say 10% unemployment, however there are figures at 20%. So if US really goes into more industrial innovation, how are they going to put these people to work if they are producing with less need of people, which make the product cheaper? What would be the future of the world, and how much the world can actually produce if we are already with a level of production that the world has? We see the earthquakes, we see the flooding, we see the storms. So there are opposite points to the development of industrial innovation for countries with big population. So if you have, I'd like to hear the comments from the audience. Barjan maybe it would be a good person to perhaps contribute to that.
I want to say that the head of the country has always been the initiator and supported the idea of integration. For Kazakhstan, with its huge territory, with a small population, it's very important to have access to markets. And the fact that we have the customs union, which started to work, is very important, and the efficiency of it will be also very important for the country. It's a very important issue, and we're trying to solve it. Now there is the issue of competitiveness. We must be competitive with Russia, and this competition is ongoing. We increase the efficiency of our sectors when we talk about unemployment. And what sort of unemployment? Qualified human resources are in deficit, low or skilled people are too many. That's why we have the programs of employment. 49% of the population lives in the rural areas. And we are an urbanized country. What is done by the country? The head of the country in 1997 made the decision to transfer the capital from Almaty to Astana. And by this, we ensure the well-balanced development of all regions. Almaty is closer to China, and it's exposed to earthquakes, and there are certain problems of ecology and for growth. Astana is in the center of the country. In Astana, Eurasian mentality is being developed. From all regions, young people come here. And in those days, the head of the country ensured transfer of the capital, and which ensured the how to say, we were quitting the party orientation. We left all the party-oriented guys in Almaty, and here we ensured a new model for development of Kazakhstan. And the policy is that we shall develop the points of development. In Kazakhstan, we have 80 big and small cities, and here we shall develop the innovative economy. But it's possible where there are all conditions, infrastructure in place, education, healthcare, access to internet. In Kazakhstan, the potential for urbanization is around 20%. Many people who are taking the managers, they come from big families, and one child of such a family who was successful went to other countries of the world to get education, and this person who comes back, he tries to achieve success in his life. And I think that the issue of industrialization will be solved through such people, and we shall, of course, create new jobs, and it will, of course, ensure migration, because where we have new jobs, where the high salaries, people would go there, would be attracted. And I hope that jointly with Belarus and Russia, we have wonderful chances to achieve a lot in this area. Есть ли еще какие-то вопросы из аудитории? Еще один вопрос отсюда, пожалуйста, задайте. С этой стороны кто-то. Good day. My question to Mr. Baybekov. How our national companies in regions will be able to attract specialists who studied under the program of Balashak, because we have a lot of work in terms of communication with the foreign partners, and we want to attract foreign investments. It would be so good if the graduates of the Balashak program would be involved in the work in our region. I represent the President's administration. I'm a deputy I am a chairperson of the Association of Balashak. It's an NGO which has been working for 10 years. I have already mentioned about the goals and objectives of the program of Balashak. Still, we have challenges. We send specialists abroad, they get knowledge, come back, but they cannot find a good job here, because the requirements of employees are very high. If you have a Harvard educational background, it doesn't mean that you can be provided a job. People say you don't have experience to graduates. Very often we have contracts concluded by the program of Balashak and between the employers. We have now, for instance, the companies from Malaysia, from other countries, they want to recruit graduates of the Balashak program, but they don't have any right. And many graduates of the Balashak program who studied abroad, they want to live only in Astana, to find a job here, only in Astana. But the president of the country insists that the graduates of Balashak must go to regions. And within the last year, to East Kazakhstan, not to the public sector, more than 30 Balashak graduates were sent, and they are involved in specific projects, and they were given serious tasks. Now what we are talking about? We are talking about the graduates who will go abroad to study and will stay there. But the task is that they should come back to the country and they should find a job here.
варианте, но вот
Mrs.
госпожа Выкасымова
Alcassanova
говорила о том, что
said
у
that
нас
this year the
в
concept
этом году
was
была принята
approved of the
концепция
model,
новой модели
of a new
государственной службы.
model
Во многом
of
эта
the
концепция взята с Сингапура.
civil
Это корпус
servants
А и
and
корпус Б. То есть у нас
of
будет
corpus
политический,
A and corpus
корпус
B,
А, те,
corpus
кто
who are
выполняет
managers and
управленческий,
corpus
корпус
B
Б, это
who are
исполнители.
executives.
И,
And if
наверное,
everything will
если
be
будет это все
supported, we'll have
поддержано,
quite
будет
a
совершенно другая
different
система
system
оплаты,
for payment, a
новое
new way to
формирование
form
кадров. То есть
the
смысл в чем?
human
Мы
resources. We
формируем
are forming
элиту
the elite
управленцев,
of
которая
managers
будет
who
знать
knows English,
английский
who
язык,
knows the
будет
managerial
иметь
skills,
хозяйственный опыт,
analytical skills
аналитический
to
опыт,
work in
работать
such
в центре на
centers.
местах.
They
Они
will have
будут
a
отправляться по ротации,
rotation
и,
for career
соответственно, придя на
promotion.
конкретный участок
And
работы, будут
who will be
привлекать таких
recruited,
же
they will,
специалистов.
of course,
То есть,
recruit
опять,
their own
принцип лидерства,
similar
формирование
specialists,
элиты.
and
Я думаю, что при этой
we'll have
системе
the
мы точечно
principles
совместно
of
с
leadership.
правительством
We are
сейчас работаем с
working
компаниями,
with the
в том
government,
числе
with the
национальными
national
и
companies,
частными.
and with the
И
private
как раз-таки
companies.
говорим о
And
том, что вот
we
есть
say that there is a program
есть
of
программа,
Balashak,
государство
graduates of
вкладывало деньги,
Balashak, and the
что нужно
country
их
has
сейчас на
invested
первом
money in
этапе
the
поддержать,
education, and
соответственно,
we
потом
need to
от них
support
будет
them now.
высокая отдача.
In Pavlodar,
В
as far as I
Павлодаре
know,
сейчас, насколько я знаю, на госслужбе более,
more than 15 people in
балашаковцев на
the
госслужбе в
public
Павлодаре.
service,
Есть
and
ребята,
there are
которые
people who
работают
work
в
in
компании. Павлодар — это
companies
очень
of
сбалансированный
Pavlodar. It's a
промышленный регион
well-balanced
с интересными
region with
возможностями,
interesting
очень активно
projects, and
двигается в рамках
it's a
индустриализации. Я
developing
думаю,
region,
интерес
and that's why
балашаковцев
I
и
think that
специалистов западного
graduates of
образования
Balashak will
будет
be
возрастать
interested to
в Павлодаре.
work in
И
Balashak,
важный аспект,
and
конечно, это
especially
повышение
if the
качества жизни.
quality of life
Мы
is
знаем,
improving
привлечь
there.
инвестора
Of course,
не
people
только
would
там
go
интересная
there,
зарплата, но и
because the
условия, в
conditions
которых он
and
будет
life
жить.
conditions
Будет
must be
соответствующие
also
условия,
appropriate, and
инфраструктура,
they will pay
возможности.
much
Вот это
attention
очень
to the
важно.
infrastructure, to
Поэтому
the
мы говорим
salaries,
о
and to all
повышении
other conditions. That's
стандартов
why we are
качества
talking
жизни
about
в
the
регионе. Это
increasing the
важный условие
standard of
привлечения
living
инвестиций.
in our regions, because this will really motivate people to go there.
Unfortunately, time is up. And I would like to thank our panelists for their wonderful views. But if governance provides the framework, and infrastructure provides the foundations, and sectors provide the bricks, then actually it's human talent that provides the cement or the glue. Without it, it falls all apart. So human talent is actually the key going forward, especially when we move, as Professor Sumitra Dutta mentioned before, towards a much more innovative and knowledge economy. Please give a hand of applause to our panelists. They did a wonderful job in shedding light on these important issues. Thank you.